As people across the country line up to be immunized against COVID-19, the Biden administration is looking into the pros and cons of creating digital inoculation certificates. Several governments worldwide are considering implementing so-called vaccine passports, which would require people to show proof of inoculation in order to travel or access certain facilities. Israel already has a version of that program in place. And while proponents say that the programs will boost the global economy, some activists are raising concerns. So we want to bring in Dan Patterson now to offer some insight into how these systems operate and how they will be rolled out. This is really fascinating stuff because, you know, I never really even considered how you would determine whether or not someone was vaccinated. You ask someone, they say yes or no, and you believe them. But that's not the case when it comes to travel and making sure that this pandemic is contained. So we know that you know, some technology companies are already building these systems. What are they doing to ensure users' digital information is protected? Because we're talking about health information. This is very sensitive.
Great to see you, Anne-Marie. And that is kind of the question that defines the post-pandemic era. How do we prove that we have been vaccinated? And what exactly is proof? Now, a number of companies, as well as a number of countries, are working on this. We just heard about Israel. Denmark's working on something. IBM, I spent a long time talking with them about their technical systems. The World Economic Forum is also working on a digital COVID passport. There are almost as many digital passports or vaccine passports as there are technology firms. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but this is a really interesting, not just socioeconomic challenge, but technical challenge for firms to work on.
Why is it important to make sure that this information is secure? I guess if getting a vaccine ensures that you're able to travel or maybe do business, then there's opportunity for abuse if I guess your information gets out?
Yeah, that's right, Anne-Marie. So without getting too technical, what companies do is, and a lot of firms are using the blockchain, which is an inalterable string of code that allows them to write your passport or that you have been vaccinated to a unique string on this blockchain code. Now, really what this means is that there is a hash that is associated with you. This is a long digital string that's associated with you, and it can't be changed, altered, or manipulated, at least in theory. Now, this also goes a long way to protecting user privacy because, of course, we want to make sure that our vaccine passports aren't hacked and appropriated by bad actors. It's not perfect. But privacy is something that these firms are kind of building at the ground floor to make sure it's not a tack on or an afterthought.
So if you have all these different companies, though, working on this, I mean, don't you need sort of a single system, or will these systems be able to work together from country to country if that is what it comes to?
Yeah, interoperability and scalability are two of the big challenges here. And, you know, a moment ago I said that there are so many different platforms that it's a unique tech challenge. Well, integrating those platforms is the second part of that tech challenge. So when I talk to technology firms, they say we're using the APIs, that's the application programming interface, to make sure that one passport can talk to another passport. Now, a lot of tech solutions are great on paper and in theory, but when it comes to working with these platforms in practice, there isn't a lot of proof yet. We've seen great demonstrations, especially with the IBM digital passport that we wrote about on CBS News. But you know, look, when it comes to scaling this passport with, say, a country's passport or a private tech firm or an organization like the World Economic Forum, you know, we not just have three different tech platforms, we have three different types of organizations: a private company, a government, and a non-governmental organization.
So here's the thing, you know, with this pandemic, we have all leaned into technology, and what we have learned is that if you don't have access to the technology or if you don't know how to use it, you get left out. We've seen it with education. We've seen it with getting the vaccine. We've seen it in a lot of different places. So is there a concern about racial and economic disparities? You know, if you don't have the latest smartphone, could that mean that you don't have access to a vaccine passport?
Yes. So this is one of the biggest challenges that I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out. It's not as though these firms, countries, and organizations aren't aware of this challenge. But look, it's not just if you don't have a phone or don't have the latest phone. What if you don't have access to the internet? Now, as we saw in some of the footage that we rolled there, a lot of people are able to print out their vaccine passport. You can hold it up. It can be scanned. But if you don't have access to a printer, you don't have access to the internet, you have some challenges. When I spoke to IBM, they said, hey, look, we're trying to make this so that it works with every single device, whether it's new or old, but and I know just how quickly technology becomes obsolete, and there simply are no guarantees that a vaccine passport that works on, say, the iPhone 12 Plus will work on an older Android phone or vice versa. And as these tech platforms advance, the virus isn't going away, our vaccines aren't going away, but we'll have to adapt the platform for the vaccination passport along with that. And once again, not just hardware becomes obsolete, but software becomes obsolete as well. And right now, there is no solution to this, or there is no universal solution.
So this is going to make a lot of people uneasy, this idea, not just because of the technology and information, data leaks and all that sort of stuff, but some people just sort of resent the idea of being required to get a vaccination in order to resume life. But I will point out that vaccinations are required for a lot of activities. School systems typically want kids vaccinated. There are options if you're uncomfortable with that. But it's before I travel to certain places, I have to get vaccinated for certain diseases that are not present here in the U.S. So let me ask you, how does this COVID-19 vaccine passport system compare to some of the other vaccination regulations that are in place now?
Well, this is one sign of hope, Anne-Marie, at least here in the United States. And look, like I said, there is no universal solution, at least not right now. But as you indicated, we already have solutions in place for vaccinations. When you travel to certain parts of the world, you do have to get a vaccine, and you have to demonstrate that you have this vaccine when you enter or leave the country. The same thing here at school in the United States. Look, with many public schools and many private schools, you just have to demonstrate that you've been vaccinated for a lot of the common ailments that have existed. And we're trying to scale a lot of those problems out to include COVID-19. Again, I want to iterate that there is no universal solution, but at least here in the United States, it looks like we're kind of learning from the precedent set by other vaccines to say, hey, look, for some parts of life, a return to normal could include a lot of the things and a lot of the technologies that we already have used and have in place for a long time.
Yeah, well, we will be watching the developments closely and listening to what you have to say about it, Dan. Thank you very much.
Great to see you.